All right, the recording is started, and this is the April 7th, 2022 Crossplane community meeting. There are a number of folks who are not able to make the call tonight, but I think that they have added their agenda items to the agenda document here. This is a live agenda doc, so folks are more than welcome to continue adding suggestions, and we will go through all the items one by one. Okay, so let's get into the usual starting section of releases and upcoming milestones. So we did do, since the last community meeting, that was 2 weeks ago, we did do a couple of patch releases. We did a 1.6.5 and a 1.5.3. Now, my understanding of these patch releases was mostly around setting up the previous 1.5 and 1.6 branches or those patch releases to be able to install successfully to upcoming 1.7 and 1.8 milestones that have support for webhooks and migrations, etc. So a couple of things have been added in there to make that a more smooth process. So getting updated to the latest releases in the 1.5, 1.6 branches before migrating to upcoming releases is recommended. Folks can add any more commentary on that, but I think that was the main focus of both those patch releases. The release notes are available in the agenda document, and you can peruse through those and ask any questions if there are any there. I don't know of any other upcoming planned patch releases that are on the horizon, but as usual, we will be releasing any priority fixes or things that are affecting previous releases as they come up. I'll keep accepting additions here for folks adding themselves to the attendees list. Now, so the next milestone that we're working on is the 1.8 release. The current schedule for this is May 17th, which is right around KubeCon timeframe. I think it's still a good idea to probably bump that release up just slightly a few days so that it would be right before KubeCon as opposed to during KubeCon. This makes sense from a number of perspectives because a lot of times during KubeCon week gets pretty hectic, pretty crazy. People are busy with other things. So trying to run a release during the middle of that doesn't sound like a good idea. And then having the release available so we can talk about it and get feedback on it and engage with the community around it during KubeCon is probably a nice thing as well. So I think I think that's still the right thing to do there, and we should probably make that change. It's not a big change. It's only a few days, and it just makes sense from a timing perspective. You can follow along with the planned releases and as well as the community calendar, which I think we talked about in last community meeting, which I was not able to make, but those are all linked in the agenda document as well. For 1.8 features, I think the 1.8 board is fairly up to date, which kind of reflects the highest level, the highest priority of roadmap items. So I did a little bit of cleanup recently to get this all set up. So the roadmap is right here, and I just changed windows with that. And then a slice of things that will be that high level important things that we focused on in 1.8 timeframe are captured in the 1.8 specific board. So I don't think Muafik is able to make it today, but a big focus for him recently has been around pluggable webhooks and be able to do validation and migration, mutating and mission webhook sort of stuff. That is available in 1.7, but there's still some lingering issues here. So this is still open, even though bulk of functionality is there. So I think there'll be a little bit more commitment or investment in time to finalize some of these lingering issues. Custom compositions is still a huge investment that we're making for the 1.8 timeframe. We'll go into a little bit more details on custom compositions later on in the agenda here. And I know Sergen is on the call, who can provide us a little bit more details about what's been focused on recently. There's been a really good community effort from, I believe Max has been driving it for something that's been largely requested from the community that would help out with, in general, building compositions is around being able to reference data sources from the environments, such as config maps, et cetera, There's been a couple of proposals on that and a couple of efforts actually that we weren't really able to converge on from, I think the main feedback there was around security, potential vulnerability issues with it. So the current proposal looks like this being driven by Max, I believe, is looking pretty good. Where is the pull request on this one? I think it's this one, 3008. So I encourage folks to take a look at this because I think this addresses a lot of people's requests for the functionality of being able to support patching in from common data sources. It looks like Muafik took a good review on it recently, a couple of passes, and provided some feedback and is discussing it with Max. Looks like this proposal is going in a very good direction. So it's definitely something that's on the roadmap here for a little bit, and then being discussed and having time put into it during the 1.8 timeframe. I don't know. I don't think we're committing right now to the implementation getting in for 1.8, but the design is being. It looks like it's being finalized right now. Is making some good progress. So it would be nice, since I think Max has been working on the implementation in parallel with the design proposal. It would be nice for that to be in for 1.8, but I don't know if we're committing to that yet. But this would be very helpful for a lot of people in the community that have been asking for this. There's still some more work on continuing to go further with the external secret store work that Hassan had been working on recently. Those are that work was in 1.7, and then some more work here to have a pluggable model where more support besides Vault and Kubernetes secrets can just continue to be added in an out of tree way, so that it could be opens up the doors for a lot more support for various secrets managers and credential management sort of services to be integrated into Crossplane very easily and without a large dependency on updating the core of Crossplane. So that's something that's getting some more attention here. And some other things that are going to be getting some attention are more identity management things, like being able to run Crossplane in the context of your cloud providers, identity management, identity aware services, and then observability Crossplane resources are going to be getting some attention too. So I think all these put together are, from what I believe to be fairly highly requested items from the entire community. So I think we're taking a fairly good focus here with 1.7, what we've done, and then 1.8, what we're doing to continue that to address a lot of things that that will be very helpful for a lot of people in the community. Any questions or feedback on 1.8 or other priorities that people want to see, or any of that, and then, in related to upcoming milestones, or anything I missed that we know we're working on that we want to get added to the roadmap? All right. If there are any, because those are like the main high level big ticket items that folks are working on. So if there's some smaller bug fixes and features that folks are also making contributions on or planning to spend some time on, please do let us know, and then you can go ahead and make sure that they're included in the project board as well, so they have a little bit more visibility. But these are the big ticket items that I know are getting attention right now. All right, so that is core Crossplane, at least. So we can go ahead and move on down to the provider section as well. So let me see who all is on the call. I think both of them, so Matthias, Hassan, and Muafik are missing here. So let's take a quick look here. Muafik has been driving the proposal around merging our classic providers, for AWS, for GCP, et cetera, along with their Terrajet generated providers. There's been a fair amount of discussion and feedback amongst the entire community on this pull request that's linked in the agenda doc here, 2930. And I believe this is converging. So the proposal here that Muafik has outlined of merging the providers, so there's just a single AWS, a single GCP, and a single Azure provider will reduce a lot of confusion amongst the ecosystem, and as well as have a lot of the benefits around increasing the velocity in which providers and features and coverage are being delivered. So, there's been a ton of discussion on that, and it looks like it's getting ready for going ahead and ratifying and merging in. So it's kind of a bit of a last call for, feedback and opinions there, but, the trend has been reaching convergence on that. So that's a big announcement to make there. Looks like Aaron is adding some recent releases here, which is super helpful. Aaron, since I see you pasting in those, do you want to give us a quick update on them as well?
Hey, the provider Terraform is not mine. However, the we had this started last community meeting, but we hadn't done an official release of it. So I just wanted to put it out to the community that we do have an initial provider, a jet-based vault provider that implements one resource, which is the generic secret resource for Vault for the Terraform Vault provider. So I wanted to make sure that was out there and it's available for contribution if anybody else has an interest in firming up the provider jet vault.
Awesome. Thanks, Aaron. And thanks also for grabbing the v0.2 release of Provider Terraform, which I know Yuri has been working a bunch on along with some community members. Yuri, do you want to give us an update of some of the broad functionality here? Because I know that there's a pretty big push here that we should be pretty happy about.
Yeah, sure. So v02.0 was released today. It reflects pretty amount of work that was done on this provider, and it's currently in much more consumable state than from previous release. So we can check out private Git repositories. There is much more reliable fetching mechanism. We have exposure of Terraform model outputs right in the status, and a bunch of bug fixes on the stabilization of the provider. So basically, we got some interest from the community in this provider. I know that folks from GE Digital were posting a blog post mentioning provider Terraform in action, and I worked with them on reproduction of some scenario where they're using a composition which is mixing native resources and some provider Terraform based resources. So basically encapsulating some legacy model plus mixing them with a classic native Crossplane ones. And we got a new contributor, Bob from Nokia, which is pretty amazing. So yeah, I think this provider is getting more mature. There are obviously a lot of things to do there, but currently it's pretty stable way to execute your existing Terraform model in Crossplane, Azure, and yeah, it's working.
Yuri, I definitely appreciate as well the effort that went into this release to to stabilize it, but also to put in some feature functionality gaps. And so this is now becoming a useful way or useful bridge for starting to get your feet wet with Crossplane, starting to move some of your Terraform workloads into it, and continuing as a part of a grander vision for adopting Crossplane. So that's super useful. And I also think it's humorous too, how quickly you have dove into it with being included as a new contributor in the release notes, then becoming a maintainer, and then driving the release to get all this out. So that's one heck of a release for Yuri. But well done, man.
Thank you.
All right. Okay, so then we can move on to provider AWS. So v0.26 is, I saw that there was a delay on it for getting a build linter check in. I don't have an update myself on if 0.26 is still going out today. I don't know if some of the other maintainers of provider AWS are on right now. Mofik's not, Christopher's not. Aaron, do you have an update on that or know what might be the latest to provider AWS release?
No, I only know what's mentioned in the notes that 0260 is due out today
Okay.
to include the support for the external secret store.
Okay. Yeah, so I know that I did see some of that getting pushed in recently as well. So yeah, let's follow up and see if that's still coming today. But it should be, things should be pretty much near the finish line there, and they should be going out fairly soon. That's something that we have a lot of confidence in. Jesse, I saw you added a note here on started the work on assuming web identity roles.
Yeah, so this is going to be my first contribution. How you guys doing? This is something that I've been speaking with a number of Upbound folks via a proof of concept that we're working on with Upbound here at Autodesk. And due to some restraints on the way that Autodesk does, cross-account authentication within Amazon's walls, we cannot use STS chaining, and all of the existing solutions for reaching cross accounts with a single provider to multiple subordinate accounts require STS chaining currently. So the idea is that we would produce a solution that would be similar to what is being done. If you were to review the rest of that issue there's other work that's being done. I think Dan spoke to some of that. But unfortunately those capabilities are not going to cover assuming roles with web identities, which is what IRSA facilitates. So this is going to allow, I imagine, if we were to look at the solution, it's going to allow for the provider to move between underlying web identity ARNs, using the same web identity token file, used alternate ARNs, possibly provided via the provider config. I'm not quite sure yet. I'm interested in anyone's input. You're welcome to comment on that thread there, but this is something that we're going to kick off today, actually.
That's a great update, Jesse. Definitely appreciate that. I know you've been, providing a lot of feedback and contributing in a lot of ways so far. So then having this as contribution to the functionality is going to be really cool to see also. So thanks for getting started on that, Jesse. Okay, awesome. All right, and then so we can move ahead on to provider Azure. And Alper, I know you've been doing a bunch around there with some identity related things as well, which is obviously a big focus in 1.8 across all the providers. Do you want to give us an update on that too, Alper?
Yeah, sure. Regarding provider Azure, there's an open PR that introduces support for user assigned and system assigned managed identities. As part of this PR, we also had to visit, an issue in AKS clusters. There was an open issue requesting support for, managed identities in AKS clusters. Currently, we are provisioning the service principal that the AKS cluster will assume. The AKS cluster, has to provision volumes, load balancers, etc. And it does this under, currently it does this under a service account that we provision in parallel to the AKS cluster itself, or before provisioning the AKS cluster itself in the controller. So this also has a related, bug that I had opened, a sporadic one, that's related to the propagation of the service account that we provision in the controller. So while working on introducing support for managed identities, we also had to change the way we do, change the way we provision service principals for AKS clusters. So instead of manually, or instead of provisioning a service principal, we would like to have Azure use a managed identity for the AKS cluster. So this PR addresses a bunch of open issues And we will be working on this with Ezgi. She will begin reviewing this PR soon, I hope. Yeah. Thank you.
Awesome, Alper. And now, does that tie back into any updates you want to provide for identity support in general across providers in the 1.8 timeframe? Maybe above and beyond Azure.
Yeah. So as you mentioned, I was taking a look at all three providers, how things are done. I have also read about Jess's scenario, and I'm very happy to hear that we will have Assume Web Identity support coming to AWS, or at least the effort is beginning. So we have also covered some other Crossplane community use cases regarding these authentication and authorization issues in general. So the root issue that I'm also interested in is provider partitioning. There's an issue opened by Dan, regarding provider partitioning. And generally, what I do is when I see a use case, I try to figure out whether we really need provider partitioning to implement it or not. This also has some relation to the control plane of control planes concept. So if you adopt such an approach of control planes, then you do the isolation at a deeper level, so that you don't need separate provider deployments running in the same Kubernetes cluster, etc. So what I will do next is try to put together some user scenarios that we have heard about and discuss some alternative implementations for them. So currently, any user scenario that requires using multiple Kubernetes service accounts for a Crossplane provider does not work, as you know. However, it also looks possible that using mutating web admission hooks and some Kubernetes RBAC rules, etc. With the current architecture of Crossplane, we can achieve more. So I will try to prepare a one-pager where we discuss some alternatives to implementing these scenarios. And then maybe we will decide to implement an actual, partitioning, or maybe we will adopt another approach, where we use some, for example, mutating webhooks, etc., to implement certain scenarios. Yeah. So as you mentioned, these are all under the umbrella, for me at least, all under the umbrella of these identity-based authentication and the related concept of provider partitioning.
Awesome. And I think that, that's something I'm really excited about here, Alper, is that we're taking a comprehensive look at, at identity and usage and support, across all the providers, and seeing the patterns and the consistency we can get there. So that's definitely useful. I'm glad you're looking at it from a complete angle in the 1.8 timeframe.
Yeah.
And thanks for sharing that update with us.
Thank you. One thing related to this topic is we have recently introduced support for managed identities in Jet Azure. So the PR is open for the native provider, which introduces support for managed identities in the native provider. It's more complicated there because we are using an old library. Stefano has also had opened an issue, switching from the Autorest library to Azure Identity SDKs. but for the Terraform provider, the situation was much simpler, and the PR is in. And with the recent 0.9.0 release of provider Jet Azure, we now support managed identities. So this is also related to this topic.
Yeah, I added the release link to the list above. It was released just yesterday, so it contains a managed identity and new data encryption resources.
Yeah, thank you, Yuri.
Awesome. Thanks for adding that link, Gary. All right. Okay, cool. So I think that's all the updates we had for sharing on various providers. So we've covered core Crossplane, we've covered providers. So I think we can move on ahead to the community topics. I think I've accepted all comments and additions to the agenda document as we've been going on. So we can keep on going in. I think we've got everything integrated. Quick note here on various content. I didn't see too much since the last community meeting, at least. I know Dan, which the reason he can't make it today is that he's currently in London presenting at QCon. So he gave a presentation earlier this week about Crossplane and control planes in general that is not published yet. For the recording's not published yet, or the slides aren't published yet, but you can see a little bit of Twitter talk on it there, at least the one link provided there. Victor, if there's any other videos or talks or anything that you had added recently, feel free to add these to the agenda document so they make it as well.
Yeah, it's coming next week. A few.
Awesome, sweet, sounds good. And any upcoming talks that you want to share with us too, Victor, like conferences that you'll be speaking at or anything like that?
Yeah, to be honest, I'm lost in my own conferences. I know that there is none of them in next few days.
Okay, fair enough. All right, so cool. So custom compositions, a very important feature that's been worked on in 1.7 timeframe, but then shooting for an alpha release in 1.8, I believe. I think that Sergen is on the call here. So yeah, Sergen, do you want to go ahead and give us an update on the latest efforts in general for custom compositions?
Yes, sure. Actually, we are focusing on how can we run the KRM functions and what is the best and more efficient way of this running the KRM functions. So there is an open issue about this context. As you know, before this one, we worked on a POC. It's about using the init containers to run the KRM functions. So this was an option, and another option was using the chroot based runner. So there is a ready prototype in our POC repo. I also added the link here, and also as far as I know, Nick is also working on preparing a prototype and another prototype. And our last two sync meetings about the custom composition, we could not make them. So I hope that in the next meeting, we will discuss the details about this one. And as I said, that about the two options to running the KRM functions via init containers or change chroot based runner. We will discuss the advantages, disadvantages, and we will try to decide how can be the next steps about this one and the general topic of the custom compositions.
Nice. When is the next scheduled custom composition SIG meeting, Sergen?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Oh, when is it scheduled for?
Wednesday morning, actually, and I can also publish the time information to the agenda doc, I think.
Yeah, feel free to add that in there.
Okay.
Cool. And is there anything that you need to sync with Nick on before that to get unblocked on, or are you making good progress there independently still?
Yeah, actually, we are talking with Nick about for syncing in other times. So no, okay. I can work. Yeah.
Awesome.
Thank you. Thank you for asking.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Glad to see all that progress there. That's great. Okay. So then, KubeCon EU is coming up a little bit more than a month away. As previously stated, we have a booth in the CNCF's Project Pavilion. We have a intro and deep dive session in person in Valencia on the maintainer track. And we also have a virtual, online project office hours session as well. So the project booth in the CNCF Project Pavilion area, we do have good staffing for that. I think that's fairly well covered. Obviously, more folks are invited to come and hang out at the booth or take some sessions there if you're a contributor or maintainer in the project and you want to talk to the community and answer questions and such. More people are certainly welcome to join in on that. So feel free to reach out to me and I'll get you in there for sure. And then the speaker lineup is settled for the intro deep dive session. So the final speaker lineup for that one is Christopher Haar, Yuri, and Stephen Borelli, and me as well. So those are the 4 speakers on that one. And then the virtual office hours, the online session, that is the one that we do still need some volunteers or folks that want to answer questions and present, or however you want to get engaged. There are still openings for that one. If you want to speak or if you want to do the Q&A, there's opportunities there. So please do reach out to me if you want to get involved in that. And especially if you can't make it to Valencia, this is a great way to still get involved and participate and engage with the community too. All right, I don't think there were any other things that were added to the agenda doc of PRs or deeper technical discussions, etc. So that's all the content that I had on the agenda. Is there anything that folks want to bring up now or address here at the open time? Okay, cool. Well then, if there's not anything else then on the agenda, then we can go ahead and adjourn, and we'll continue working on the 1.8 milestone and making progress on that towards the release right around the KubeCon timeframe. And if we don't see folks at community meetings in the meantime, then hopefully we'll see you in Valencia then. All right, take care, everybody. See ya.
Goodbye.
Thank you so much. Cheers.
Bye, everyone.